Good morning. Thank you for joining this webinar. We're going to make a start. So it's recruiting on social, what to post, where to show up, and why it works. So we'll just start off with an introduction to me. Hi, I'm Caitlin. This is actually my first proper hireful webinar, and it's nice to see so many of you here. Thank you for joining. If you haven't already guessed, I love researching and talking all things social strategy. I look after all of hireful's socials, including much of our stuff to do with our employer brand. And I also volunteer as publicity team leader for my local cats protection branch. And a lot of that content also focuses around recruiting volunteers. So today, we're going to first of all look at how you can build your personal brand in a way that feels human and realistic. We're going to also discuss how to find the right platforms for your organization to be showing up on. We'll look at how to create content that engages potential candidates, as well as how you can get your team involved in that too. So I'd first of all love to get an idea of what brought you here today. So I'm going to run a quick poll. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to social right now? I'll give you a little bit of time to answer. But yeah, I think it's always nice to see what other people's challenges are, because to be honest, we probably all have very similar challenges. So yeah, I'll give you some time to respond on that. Knowing what to post and knowing what platforms to use are looking like they're taking the lead. I'll just give you a couple more seconds. Okay. Okay. So we should be able to see those results now. So our winner was knowing what to post and knowing what platforms to use, followed by low engagement. So I hope that a lot of today's session will give you some ideas on what to post, and also some advice on how to figure out what the best platforms are and how to keep your engagement up as well. So yeah, let's move on. Okay, so when it comes to social recruiting, what is all the fuss about? So stats show that social media plays a huge role in how people look for jobs. The most recent one I could find said that 79% of job seekers now use social media as part of their job search, and that number is only growing, of course. Now, if we broke that stat down, we'd probably see that when surveyed, the vast majority of people are reporting using LinkedIn specifically in their job search, which makes sense. LinkedIn is where a lot of job searching gets formalized. So yeah, it's a really important platform, and we are going to get into how we can maximize LinkedIn in a second. But here's the thing. Just because someone applies through LinkedIn, that doesn't mean that's where their journey started. So I know that I've seen content on TikTok or Instagram that's maybe like a fun team video or a look behind the scenes that's made me think like, God, that company looks like a great place to work. And as a candidate, I might not apply then and there, but it really sticks in my mind. And if a job from that company popped up on LinkedIn a few months later, I'd be much more likely to click or even apply because I already feel like I've had an insight into what it's like to work at that company. So while LinkedIn might get all the credit when people are surveyed about what platforms they're using for their job search, it's often those earlier moments on other platforms that also do a lot of the legwork in influencing candidates' perception of you as an organization. That's why it's so valuable to show up on platforms beyond just LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really important, but you're planting the seed early when you're showing up on other platforms too, especially when it comes to engaging those passive candidates who aren't actively job hunting. So you're building awareness and interest before they're even ready to apply. I think we've probably all been guilty of checking someone's Instagram and Facebook profile before meeting them in real life. And candidates are doing the same thing to you. So how you're showing up online really does matter. Yeah, and at this point in time, social media isn't really just a nice to have anymore. It's where candidates are expecting to find you, and if you're not showing up, then your competitors will be. So yeah, it's important. So before we start talking about personal branding, I just want to define what we mean when we say personal brand. So, your professional personal brand is how you present yourself online in a work context. It's what people see, remember, and associate with you professionally. So, when you're thinking about developing and building your personal brand, my best advice is to consider what you want to be remembered for and known for. Um, for most of us, our platform of choice for building our professional brand will be LinkedIn. I know that's mine. But depending on your role or audience, it might also be Instagram, TikTok, or even on a company blog. So it's wherever it makes sense for the people you're trying to reach. So, in simple terms, your personal brand is the version of you at work that people see online before they've ever met you. So, before we go into my quick personal branding wins, I just want to find out how confident you feel about your own professional personal brand. So I'm going to run another poll. Hopefully you can see that. But yeah, please let me know how you feel about your current professional personal brand. So could you be doing more? Do you feel completely invisible? Or are you currently really active and happy with the way that your personal brand is? Yeah. Like I said, I feel like it's always nice to see that you're not like there's others in the same boat as you. So yeah, I'll give that just a second. Okay. Final votes if you haven't already voted. Okay. So we can see, so yeah, we've got a lot of people saying, not really confident, I rarely post, which is completely fine. You know, as like in-house recruiters and HR professionals, you're busy, it's fine. But we are going to look at how you can kind of find the balance and set time aside to develop your own personal brand. There are a few of you that said you're fairly confident, and a couple of you that said you're very confident, which is great. And also a few of you that said, help me, Caitlin, I'm invisible, which is valid. That's fine. Hopefully this will be of some help to you. So, yeah, so the power of a personal brand. Your professional personal brand can be so powerful, and it doesn't need to take a load of time and effort either. The reason why personal accounts, especially when we're talking about LinkedIn, are often more useful than company accounts is that they get a lot more reach. What I mean by reach, if you don't know, is that the LinkedIn algorithm prefers personal profiles, and your posts get shown to a lot more people than if you were to post from a company page. So why is your personal brand so powerful? So the obvious one, people trust people way more than they trust brands and logos. Personal brands also help to humanize your organization and your hiring process. But they can also be really powerful for not only talent attraction, but long-term career development. So I'm not just talking about your personal brand being useful if you want to move on from the company you're with now, but also internally, they can really act as a professional portfolio and support your career development internally too. So yeah, so powerful. I could talk about them all day, but yeah. So these are my like key tips for building your personal brand. So these are tailored to LinkedIn, but you can build your professional personal brand, like I said, really on any platform that best fits the candidates that you're trying to reach. So my number one tip is an obvious one. It's update your profile. You're representing your organization as well as yourself as an individual. So things like your banner image. Think about how perhaps you don't need to use a standard company one. It could be a possibility that you could use one that shows off your team or says something about your workplace culture. Your bio, this is a big one. So your bio should be about you. You can sprinkle some of your company culture in there too, but really focus on like your skills, your qualities, and what you bring to the organization that you're with. If you're planning on revamping your bio, my advice would be to focus on making it really reflect what you want your personal brand to be. So like I said, think about what you want to be known for. That could be like being an advocate for neurodiversity in the workplace, or building an inclusive workplace culture. So what do you want to be known for as an in-house recruiter or HR professional? And try and make your bio original as well. So keep it authentic. It doesn't need to sound super formal. Keep it authentic and human. And if you are going to revamp your bio, I would challenge you to not use the phrase "I'm passionate about," because that's a really common one. And not using that, I think, is like number one rule to making a bio that stands out from everyone else. So yeah. Another easy win is like when it comes to your profile, your profile picture. So lots of people fall into the trap of thinking that their profile picture needs to be super formal. In some cases, perhaps if you're representing like a legal firm, it probably does need to be quite formal and professional. But if your company culture is a bit more relaxed, then your profile picture can be relaxed too. Show some warmth and personality and have a bit of fun. Again, keep it professional because this is a professional personal brand, but it doesn't have to be super corporate if that doesn't align with the organization that you're working for. Again, this won't be appropriate for all organizations, but it can make all the difference if a formal professional photo just doesn't reflect your company culture. And when it comes to your profile as well, I recommend using pin posts to highlight a few posts that you've made that really show off your company culture. Yeah. The next is expanding your network. So having an up-to-date profile is really key when you're expanding your network. We're all guilty of stalking someone's profile when we get a connection request. So put your best foot forward. The more people you're connected with, the more people will see your posts. So my advice is, if you're happy to, connect with anyone and everyone, but especially the people that like and comment on your posts, because those are the people that are engaged with you. Next is consistency. So lots of people especially will tell you on LinkedIn, you need to be posted X amount of times per week, otherwise don't bother. But I know firsthand, working from an SME organization, that sometimes that's just not realistic or doable, and there's only so many hours in the day. So when you're posting, focus on consistency. So avoid falling into the trap of scheduling 3 posts every week for a month and then going radio silent for 2 months. I've been there, done that. But yeah, it's instead focus on figuring out what's realistic for you. So if this month you can dedicate an hour to writing 4 or 5 posts, then post once a week instead of posting 4 times in a week and then going completely silent. So consistency is really key, especially on LinkedIn. When you do post, or if you have a scheduled post about to go live, I always recommend spending a few minutes just engaging with other people's posts on your feed beforehand, so commenting especially. This is just an easy win to help you increase your engagement and help your post reach more people. As well, when you're posting, like try and include like a question or a hook at the start or the end of your post to get people commenting and to get people interested in what you've got to say. Another easy win is thinking about when you're posting. So on LinkedIn, post in the morning if you can. LinkedIn sees peak traffic like before 9:30 a.m. So it's a good time to post, but try not to get too bogged down by this. So if it doesn't work for you, or if you see engagement at different times, then go with what works for you. But my advice would be to test posting like pre 9:30. Because engagement is generally a lot higher. And finally, the big one, the 80-20 rule. So it's the rule of thumb for all social media. So this will include your personal brand, but also your company accounts. So it's the rule that only 20% of your content should be what you call selling content. So for recruiters and HR professionals, your selling content will be anything that you're posting, either selling or it's your vacancy posts. So your job ads, anything promoting your organization, but yours primarily will be your vacancy posts. So 80% feels like a lot of other content to make up. But yeah, the other 80% should be content that gives people a reason to add you to their network or engage with your posts. So I always like to think, like, what value can I add, or how can I entertain you? I will go into this more in a second with some content ideas. But yeah, always have in the back of your mind. I mean, you don't need to follow it like rigorously, but roughly 80-20. So when it comes to personal branding overall, think of it as showing up consistently with a clear point of view. You don't need fancy content or professional studio lighting, or even for your posts to go viral. You just need to be consistent, and it will pay off. So here's just a few ideas of content that you could post to help build out your personal brand and build up to that 80% of content that's not job ads. I noticed that we have had a few questions come in, so I would like to encourage people to pop questions in the Q&A, because when we get to the end, I will try and get through as many as possible. So yeah, please do ask questions. But yeah, so when it comes to what could you post, I have listed a few ideas here. So I think sometimes people feel like their LinkedIn posts need to be really corporate or strictly sales driven. But I don't know about you, but that is my least favorite kind of LinkedIn content. And it's normally the content that I'm guilty of just scrolling past. So the same probably goes for your candidates, but also your customers too. So here's some ideas of content that should help cut through the noise. So you probably already tried to stay fairly up to date with what's happening in your industry. So it's always a good idea to share like news articles and blogs and give your take on things. Behind the scenes content as well is always good. So like if you've attended a team lunch or you've got a new starter that you're onboarding, talk about it, post about it. Insight, especially on LinkedIn, people love insight. So reflect on what you've been up to and talk about lessons you've learned. Or trends you've noticed, or you can even talk about frustrations, but just remember to keep it professional. Your journey. So people, again, love a story. So talk about how you got where you are today. What have you learned along the way? And for example, like talk about what do you know now that you wish you knew at the start of your career. Things like that are always great, and generally get people engaged. Advice for candidates is a really good one. This will help you kind of build that trust with potential candidates. So share your advice, share what you look for. Celebrate your new starters. So I love to see recruiters go beyond just the standard, like welcome to the team post, and actually talk about what their new hire's role is and how they'll make an impact. Or ask them to share like why they joined and share that. This type of content is also really good for company pages. But we will get onto that. But yeah, it helps candidates to see like why others have joined your organization. It's just a really nice touch, I think. Change is a good one. So if your team has made improvements, for example, to your hiring process based on candidate feedback, share the story. So say we used to do this, and then this happened, and now we do this. It really shows some like great honest qualities and highlights that you and your organization are constantly growing, which candidates love to see. And also life outside of work. So this one won't be for everyone, but it really does help candidates and peers to view you as a real person, which sounds funny to say, but it's true. So lots of people say that they struggle to do this without feeling like they're posting on Facebook to their mates. But think things like volunteering or career development or balancing parenting with your career. All of these things a lot of people can relate to and will often engage with, without it being too private or personal. So find that balance. Okay, so here's a good example of an in-house recruiter who I think does this really well. So his name is Tim Browning, from Supermassive Games, and he actually used to work here at hireful. This was pre my time, but he used to work here at hireful. But since then, he's really grown his LinkedIn presence and has developed a really strong personal brand. He posts content that people actually really enjoy reading. that makes people laugh, and he does a really good job at putting a face to the brand. I really love seeing the memes that he posts come up on my feed. But when he does post job ads as well, like you can see in the screenshot here, he gets really impressive engagement because he approaches it in such a human way that gets people excited and interested. He has a joke, and I presume that really reflects like the Supermassive Games brand as well. So think about the brand that you're representing, and really like go into your job ad posting with a really human approach, because that's what will get the engagement. So when it comes to posting content as a company, to attract and engage candidates, there's lots of platforms you could be showing up on. But I guess the struggle is figuring out which ones you should be showing up on. So I do just have a couple of polls again. Let me just run those. Okay, so there's 2 questions here, but I just want to see what platforms we're most commonly using as a group. I'll give you some time to vote, but I want to know what platforms you're using personally, and then what platforms your organization is using and showing up on already. I'm sure a lot of us might already be able to take a guess at what the most popular platforms our organizations are using, but the results might still surprise us. So let's have a see. Okay, I'll just give you a few more seconds. Okay. So let's share these results. So we can see that personally, a lot of us are using Facebook, Instagram, some of us are using TikTok, a lot of us are using LinkedIn. There's no surprise there. YouTube, some of us are using YouTube, and so as a company, LinkedIn is the winner here, which I guess we could have all guessed. Facebook, again, that's an interesting one. Instagram, some of us are showing up on TikTok, which I love, and X and YouTube as well. So that's brilliant. Okay. So before we get on to platform specifics, I want to highlight why you should be showing up on various platforms that aren't just LinkedIn. Sometimes the best candidates will be actively looking for a new role and applying via job boards, but a lot of the time they won't be. A lot of the time, the best talent will only be engaged when they're directly contacted about a role, or if your vacancy lands in the lap and piques their interest. The thing about these candidates is, well, you probably all know that when they do go to market, they get snapped up quite quickly. So you really want to aim to reach and engage them whilst they're still passive. So what platforms should you be using to do that? So if you Google search like best social media platforms for recruitment, you'll be met with a lot of different data and recommendations, and it can be quite overwhelming actually. So here's a graph, for example, showing the top social media sites for recruiters, but that's not really relevant unless you're looking to recruit recruiters. So here we've got the most popular platforms for job searches, LinkedIn obviously being at the top, followed by X and Glassdoor. And this is great if you're looking to engage candidates that are actively looking for a new job, but not so great when it comes to engaging passive candidates. So they're the ones who will stop scrolling when they see an engaging LinkedIn post, a culture they want to be a part of, or a job ad that sounds like it was actually written by a real person. So to engage your passive candidates, you want to be looking more at platforms that they're using naturally in their day-to-day life. So your passive candidates are scrolling, but they're not searching. So if your brand isn't showing up on platforms they're using, not just for job searches, you're going to miss out on those candidates. So this is just a graph showing like the overall popular social media platforms. But to really find out what platforms are going to be worth your time, you need to think, where is your next hire hanging out? So if you're trying to widen your talent pool and also engage passive candidates, you need to go beyond standard job seeker platforms and work out what platforms they're naturally using. So how can you do this? Well, there are tools like LinkedIn Talent Insights. You can only use that if you're on the full LinkedIn recruiter account and not the light. But there are other tools like Statista, and most social platforms also have their own built-in analytics that you can look at. ChatGPT is a good one too. So I know a lot of you will be really limited on time. So something you can do is describe your ideal candidate to ChatGPT and ask it to provide you with recent data-backed suggestions of social media platforms they might be using, and how they might be using those platforms as well as a passive candidate. When I say like describe your ideal candidate, I'm talking about like things like their previous experience, qualifications, an industry, as well as giving it like an overview of the role that you're hiring for too. My favorite hack though is, which can work really well, especially if you're recruiting for a position that already exists within your organization, is ask your team. Um, Ask someone that's in that role or team currently what social media platforms they're using, because it's the most direct research that you're going to be able to get, and it takes seconds. So yeah, that's always worth giving it a go. So as promised, here's our Spotify example. So I hope it just highlights like going beyond what's expected. So this company called Molly reached out to prospective candidates via email and linked a Spotify playlist where the song titles made up a message saying, "Hello, I'm a recruiter looking for super cool developers." And they reported that this improved response rates by 15%. I've also seen other organizations create like company Spotify playlists to show off their vibe and culture. Um, and yeah, this is something different that you could even like embed onto your career site, or like share on your company socials. But my favorite idea with Spotify is sending candidate offers with a custom Spotify playlist. So either with a hidden message like this example, or showing off your company vibe like we discussed, or even like a celebration playlist, add a bit of like a fun element, and get them excited about starting with you. This would be fairly quick to set up if it's something that you're open to trying, but I do want to be realistic and acknowledge that, again, Spotify won't be relevant for a lot of people, especially when you're so limited on time. But I still hope that what you take away from this example is like the out-of-box thinking, and communication methods are what's going to engage your candidates and leave that long-lasting impression. Now, of course, if you work for an organization that's linked to music in any way, this is pure genius and you should steal it, and let me know if you do. Um, so here's another example. So I'm not sure if anyone saw the recruitment campaign that McDonald's Australia ran on Snapchat, where candidates could apply using a filter lens, and give like a short video introduction of themselves. They were trying to increase Gen Z and Gen X applications. So this Snapchat filter seemed like a good way to do that. It's a popular platform with these with these age groups, so I'm sure it worked. This is a great example of showing up where your candidates are and really standing out, but it's also a really great example of having like a huge astronomical recruitment budget and a massive recruitment team, which most of us just don't have. So I also dread to think how many applications they had to go through, which were just like people messing about with the filter. I don't fully know how it worked, but yeah, but it's a great concept. This is an example that I think is a bit more transferable. So Warby Parker run a Snapchat series called Desk Job, which showcases what employees keep on their desk, and they also do like Q&As with their team. This initiative gives like quite a candid, informal look into their culture that passive candidates find like relatable and memorable. And this is the type of content that can be multi-platform. So if Snapchat is relevant to your target audience, then great. But if it's not, you can also post this kind of content on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, or even Reddit if that's where your potential candidates are. So, if you've been to one of our social recruiting webinars before, you might have heard Adrian mention that we have a Life at Hireful account on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and X, which is separate from our main company page accounts. So, this is purely just an account for candidate attraction and employer branding. So, if you haven't got one of these, I'd really recommend having a look into getting one, because set one up, test it, see if it works, because they're a really great way to develop your employer brand, they can be really low maintenance, and they're a great way to showcase what's happening within your company. Yeah, so perhaps also if your marketing team are a bit more protective over your standard company pages, this is a great way to still be able to post this kind of content. So yeah, once you've built up a bit of content on an account like this as well, I think it can be really nice to share with candidates throughout various stages of a candidate journey. So my favorite use for this is like if you've got a new hire that hasn't started yet, perhaps they're working their notice period, sharing this type of page via email is a really great way to keep them engaged, make them feel included in the company, but also get them excited about starting too. So yeah, and you can always check out the Life at Hireful page for content ideas. We don't mind if you steal them. So, what type of content will stop the scroll and engage potential candidates? So I've added a list of some ideas here. So we've got things like Q&As with team members, desk essentials. Again, desk essentials, if like this isn't hugely relevant to your employees, then you can always adapt this. You know, if you've got a lot of warehouse staff, think about ways that you can get them involved and also adapt this. Pictures and updates is a really easy one. What's happening within your company? Training, team building events, anything like that. Day in the life videos as well. So our digital design apprentice, Abigail, she is currently working on filming like a day in the life video for our Life At account. So when that goes live, you guys might see it. But yeah, she's just showing like what a standard day in as an apprentice looks like at Hireful. Yeah, and it's really good not only at engaging people that are looking at going into a similar role, but showing people like what it's like to work at Hireful or your organization. Job trailers is a really good one. So when you're thinking about posting vacancies, think about how you can turn that into something engaging, like a job trailer. So like I'm picturing like a movie trailer, but as a job, okay? Not as flash, not as much editing. But yeah, make it fun. Any way that you can make it fun is always great. And a lot of this content will work really well across multiple platforms. So don't feel like you need to be creating different content for all the different platforms, because in this use case, it would just be like way too time consuming. So pick content that can be used across multiple platforms. My advice really is to not fall into the trap of thinking that your content needs to be polished as well. It doesn't need to be like overly professional or perfectly curated, because it just absolutely doesn't need to be. Authenticity is a little bit of a social media buzzword, and I do hate to use it, but it really is key in giving candidates insight into your culture. Some of this content will work best as video, and others can be as simple as still images. So, for example, obviously your pictures and updates of what's happening, but also like your desk essentials could just be a photo of a team member's desk with a caption that includes like a mini interview from said team member talking about their role and what's on their desk. However, I am a really big advocate for video. So if you can, it can really work wonders in adding like another dimension to your employer brand. And if you have a marketing team, either try and get them on board with creating video content, or perhaps borrow their video editing skills if it's not something that you're comfortable with. When it comes to filming and editing video nowadays, it doesn't have to be tricky. There are lots of tools that make it easier. So, for example, Instagram have just released their own video editor called Edits, which is super easy. If you're still looking for something even more easy, even easier, there's a tool called Edit AI, which is a video editing chatbot. So you upload your video and tell it like which sections you want to cut and remove, and it can do that for you. So it's definitely worth having a play around with that. And I have popped a link to that tool in the slide notes so you can test it out if you want to. But lastly, I just want to say, like, yes, absolutely do jump on the trends, but not all of them. So how do you know which trends to get involved with? Honestly, some will just feel like they'll work and some won't. So no, I'm not telling you and your team to start doing TikTok dances, because that won't feel right or purposeful for a lot of organizations. I think the right ones for you will just give you a natural opportunity to showcase your team and culture. We have had a couple of questions just about the slides and the notes. So yeah, at the end of this webinar, you'll get a link to the slides and a recording as well. So yeah. So you'll be able to watch the videos in this session with the sound on when we share the presentation afterwards as well. But here, playing in the background, is from when we did the Pass the Phone challenge. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's like a fun trend where you say, I'm passing the phone to someone who, and then describe someone, and you pass the phone to them. It's a nice way to show off the team, and this shows that video content doesn't have to be super edited or polished. And granted, this type of content won't suit everyone's organisations. It is a little bit more relaxed. And this one, which I'll also let play in the background too, is another example which is a bit more formal and might be suitable for your organisation if the other one wasn't. So we basically went around and asked our team why they feel proud to work at hireful. And we got a lot of really great responses. So a lot of them focused on like D&I and work-life balance. So we were able to chop those up into a few different videos and share them. So another tip I have, if you're keen to get into creating some video content, is grab yourself a mini mic on Amazon. They're about £10 and they make your content feel so much more polished without requiring any extra editing. They're so handy and you'll be surprised how often you use it. And if you have a marketing team, guard it with your life because your marketing team will steal it if they don't already have one. Me and my mini mic in the hireful office are lethal. Nobody is safe from being asked a question. And I just want to add that this video is a good example as well of how you can include teams that are remote. So it's really easy to combine like self-recorded clips into content like this that you filmed in the office, for example. And it's really important that any remote team that you have are also included if they're happy to be, because they'll also be making up a huge part of your overall culture. So a common barrier that I hear to creating content like this is people struggling to encourage their team to get involved. And I do understand that struggle, trust me. And the reality is that you can have the friendliest, happiest team ever, but not everyone's going to get in front of a camera, and that's fine. I think the best way to get your team involved is to encourage what we call employee-generated content, so EGC for short. Start by just encouraging your team to share updates on their own LinkedIn profiles, for example. It's a great way to empower them to create content that they're comfortable with and naturally show off your culture too. This will sometimes just look like a snap of the office with a caption like, "We had pizza in the office today." And this kind of content is actually really powerful. So like we said, personal profiles on LinkedIn get a lot more reach than a company page generally does. So it's a great way to expand your reach and grow your audience. Most of your team will have their own LinkedIn networks, so use them. Saying that, there will often be a few members of your team who, with a bit of persuasion, if you catch them on a good day, will get involved with filming content. And yeah, so this will be like your Q&As, your job trailers, and things like that. So make use of those people. Sometimes you'll get a domino effect where only a few people will be open to filming video content, but once they've seen others doing it and having fun, they'll be more open to getting involved too. When it comes to getting hiring managers and the rest of your team on board to champion this, it's always worthwhile bringing the data and research as well. But my advice really is to lead by example. So have fun creating content and get stuck in, and others will follow. And yeah, you can start encouraging your team to post their own content because that really is just as valuable in my opinion. So I would just like to add here that content like this doesn't just benefit your HR and recruitment teams. So the advantages don't just stop at candidate attraction and employer branding. As a member of hireful's marketing team, obviously I look after all their socials. I can 100% say that the content that performs the best on our company accounts is always the type of content that showcases our team and culture. And we get so many comments and impressions on posts where we just talk about the team and the culture that we've built. Your customers and prospective customers want to see the people behind the product. I know that I do. If I'm buying a product or service, I'm always interested in who I'm going to be working with. It helps to build that emotional connection with the brand, and it helps to build trust, and it makes them feel more positively about you as an organization. There are so many benefits, but I do have to remember that this isn't a marketing webinar. Otherwise, I'd yap on all day about them. But basically, yes, like I mentioned, it can be really beneficial to have a dedicated page, like our Life at Hireful page. But this content absolutely does also belong in your standard company pages too, and it has a place in your marketing strategy for sure. So hopefully this will kind of help you win the support of other teams in this. So the good news is that there are a lot of brands that do this really well, and there's a lot of good examples out there. Here's just a couple that I've picked out that I've seen recently. So a company called Muckle Media posts a lot of content on their Instagram showing their team building events and social events on their main company page. I'd say their Instagram account is roughly like 50-50 split of like product and service and showing off the team. So yeah, they recently posted this update sharing that they'd played like a company-wide game of traitors, which just sounds so much fun. Like after I saw that, I was Googling like corporate traitors experience days. Like how can I get Hireful on board with this? Because that sounds so much fun. But yeah, Anthropology is another one. So obviously they're a big brand and probably have a much bigger recruitment budget, which most of us don't have. But I wanted to use them as an example because they post all of their culture-focused content on their main TikTok page. And these are generally the posts that perform better as well. So that was what I was saying about when we show off our team and our culture, that's what our customers want to see. So yeah, some of their posts included like having employees try out and react to new product launches in the office, playing light-hearted games, or talking through their favorite items. And it really can just be as simple and relaxed as that. Another brand that I followed for years is Sheerlux. I feel like they bought a mini mic and just never looked back. They're always doing Q&As with their team. And on International Women's Day as well, they like went around the office with their mini mic, asking the team what they admired about other like female team members. And I thought that was a really lovely idea. So yeah, these are just a few examples, but there's loads. But to wrap up, my final tip is to be realistic. I hope I've given you a few ideas and tips to go away with, but please, by any means, don't feel like you have to go away and start doing everything. I'd encourage you to go away and test a few things. So start with your personal brand and your LinkedIn profile and grow your strategy from there. The reality is that we're all busy, and you'll have limited time, budget, and resources. And whilst a lot of this is very doable with those limitations, you really just won't be able to go and spin all the plates all the time at once because it's just not always possible. Our Life at Hireful, like I mentioned, the account is a really good example of this. So there's loads of content on there because we've had the account for years. But if you go and look at the post dates, there's huge gaps. Just because like we're a small team as well, and when we get busy, it slips down the priority list. So I can sit here and tell you that consistency is key until I'm blue in the face, but it's only achievable when it is, and when it's not, that's okay too. But it's about like setting yourself up for consistency. So set time aside where you can create content and be realistic. Don't try to overdo it, and schedule stuff in advance as well. So before we go to questions, I did just want to run a final poll. Here we go. So I just am keen to find out what are your next steps after today? Has this session inspired you to go and set up a life app page, or have you got some new content ideas? Are you going to try and get your marketing team on board with filming some content? What are you going to do? I hope that you've come away with a few new ideas. I'll give you a few more minutes just to vote on this. Okay, so let's share these results. So, most of you have said update my LinkedIn profile and focus on building my own personal brand. I think that's a really great place to start, and you can really like grow your strategy from there. And also lead by example. So, if you're starting to do it, then other members of your team will start doing it, and you'll also be able to support them in doing that as well. And lots of you also said coming up with new content ideas to attract candidates, which I love. Yeah, it's always nice to kind of test new things. Some things will work and some things won't. But yeah, try things and have fun with it as well. So I'm going to try and get through some questions. If you do have questions, please just pop them in the chat. But yeah, I'm going to try and get through them. But yeah, please do also connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me just Caitlin Plimmer at hireful, or the link is there. It will be in the slide notes. But I'm always happy, like if you want to message me on LinkedIn with like some questions, or you want to pick my brains about creating some new content, then I'm always happy to try and help. So please just, yeah, get in touch. Okay, so I'm gonna go through some questions. So we've only got a couple. So does it seem taboo to post about professional development from personal LinkedIn account when working for a business? No. I think in the past it really has been. Like, it kind of got this like funny thing where, like, if I'm posting about my successes and my personal development, then like I'm clearly trying to like appeal to other employers. It's not the case. Your organization should really be supporting you in, first of all, cheering about your successes on your LinkedIn profile, and also using that as your personal portfolio, because like I said, it's not only useful for like if you're looking for a new job, it's really useful for attracting candidates and showing like what it's like to work for your organization. You know, have you done some extra training? That's great. Like, you're showing candidates that you're getting access to training and development. So yeah, really, please use your LinkedIn profiles to really celebrate your own successes. Yeah, and don't feel like it's taboo or like it looks bad, because it's just, yeah, from like someone in the marketing team, I love it when anyone in the hireful team is like talking about what it's like to work here or what they've achieved here, because it just reflects so well on what it's like to work here, and it absolutely should be encouraged. So yeah. Okay, so we are struggling with early years recruitment. We find that it's a younger demographic of women. What of today tools would you suggest? Yeah, that's a tricky one. To be honest, I think it's testing different content styles, but also kind of testing the content and making sure that your content does also appeal to not just women. So, you know, if you have any team that aren't women, then how can you include those in your content and show, you know, that your team isn't just women, and appeal to beyond that as well. Think about like the language you're using in your like content and your posts. Sometimes it can be obvious, I know I'm guilty of it, that the content was written by a woman. So pop it through ChatGPT and see what it says. I'm not saying use ChatGPT to generate your content, because I think it's always better to at least alter your content to make it sound authentic and like it was written by you, but get it to check, you know, is this sounding like it was written by a woman, and that we're a team of women? Because obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but it's great to really, like, you know, encourage more diverse candidates and a more diverse team, because you'll only see benefits from that. So yeah, I feel like on the spot, that's all I can think of. But if you're happy to message me on LinkedIn, I'm sure that I could come up with more suggestions and tools that you could use. So yeah, please do message me, and I'll come back to you with a few extra suggestions. What else? Do you have any ideas for what to post working at a law firm that won't seem too boring? Yeah, I think, again, your best bet here is showing off your team. So your team are, you know, your team aren't boring. So yeah, show off your team. Get them to talk about like what they love about their role. Do they like working with clients? Do they love like working with the team? Do they like doing like the fun team days out that you do? And really show that side of the business too. I think especially in industries like legal. We really, before purchasing, want to see who we're going to be working with, and we want to build that like trust and emotional investment in the business before we commit. So I think, it will not only help you attract candidates, but also customers too. Really show off your team, because that's the side of the business that people want to see. How would you go about posting for an industry such as IT tech for an older demographic working in defense? So older demographics. So I'd say content is still important. So whilst maybe like your mini mic going around the office doing Q&As might not work as well for that demographic, I think especially on platforms like that have older demographics, like Facebook, for example, that's a really good one, and LinkedIn, like your more traditional posts will work. So for example, take a picture of a team member and say like, for example, Caitlin has worked here for 4 years. Her career has developed this way. She's done this training. This is what she likes about her role, and really showcase like that your team enjoy working there. And how they've developed. Like I said, there are lots of different like platform analytics and things, especially if you go in and ask ChatGPT, like, how can I engage this audience? What platforms are they using? Do your research, find some data. My instinct tells me that it would be like not Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn to engage those candidates. So try it and see how that goes. But obviously there will be your more traditional methods of engaging those candidates too. But LinkedIn especially is like pretty universal in terms of age. I hope that helps. Like I said, if you do have any further questions, please just reach out to me, and I'll come to you with all the answers I can think of. How would you go about posting when working as a recruiter for external companies for an older demographic? So for external companies, I think really try to like understand their target audience is the key thing here. Find out what they're doing currently, and what's working and what isn't. And again, do your demographic research. So use like Statista, like I mentioned, that will be in the slide notes as well. If you do have the LinkedIn full recruiter account, then you should be able to access a lot of like platform demographics on there as well. But really kind of like try to hone in on what the demographic you're trying to target is using, so that you can get a more diverse set of candidates. Okay, I think that's all the questions. So I'm going to end the webinar here, but like I said, you will get the slides and recording afterwards. And if you do have any more questions, please just reach out to me, and I'll try and do my research as well and come up with some ideas. We'll see if we can brainstorm some ideas together. Thank you so much for joining. Like I said, this is my first proper hireful webinar, and you've made it great. So thank you. I hope you have a good rest of your day.